3 months working in the nut house. I don't remember the last time I had a day off. Hell, I don't even remember the last time I saw my family. Hi, I'm here for the evaluation.
Your appointment is scheduled to start in 10 minutes, but you can wait inside the evaluation room. A doctor will be with you shortly.
Working here feels endless, like a maze, but it smells like rotten flesh. Lunatics come and go every day, and I'm responsible for their safety. The safety of someone who killed many people. What a joke. Today is evaluation day. This happens every 2 months to check the mental health of the employees of the asylum, but it feels more like an interrogation. But this time, someone wanted to see me. A doctor who was curious to talk to me, to study my case.
Welcome. I hope I didn't keep you waiting for too long. I got stuck in traffic, as you might know how Mondays can be around here, especially at this time. For that, I apologize. But no worries, this evaluation will be brief. It's a procedure that we at the Blackfield Asylum follow every 2 months to keep the mental health of our staff in check. Mental health over work. That's what I like to say to my patients.
No worries, Doc. Mondays can be chaotic outside, but here it tends to get really quiet. So, I'm in no rush.
Splendid. So, Mr.
John Doe, but John is fine.
Mr. John. I apologize. It's funny because we also have a patient that is called John Doe, and I just did his evaluation, but let's get to what really matters here. You, Mr. John. For this evaluation, I will be asking you a couple of questions, and you can answer them however you feel like it. Don't worry, there are no cameras inside. This evaluation will be 100% private for the safety of our staff, and also for the sake of privacy. With that said, are we ready to start this evaluation, Mr. John?
Sure. Hit me up.
That's what I like to hear. So your name is John Doe, correct?
Yes.
You are 42 years old, correct?
Yes, 43, soon.
The beauty and the curse of getting old. I'm also almost 43, Mr. John. And about your family, it seems here that you have a wife and 4 kids, correct?
Yes, to be honest, I don't remember.
Don't you worry, Mr. John. You soon will remember.
The good old PlayStation days hold a special place in my heart, where I cherish some of my best memories. For example, the Tekken 3 matches I had against my dad, or the times I got completely lost while trying to figure out how to finish the Spyro demo. Even better, playing Driver's Take a Ride mode, because I couldn't pass the first mission. That damn parking lot. These are truly special memories that always bring me joy. Do any of you relate to that 7-year-old Jules? Alongside all those amazing colorful games that I played throughout my childhood, there was a special franchise, Twisted Metal. I learned about Twisted Metal by watching a trailer from Twisted Metal 3 that came with a PlayStation demo disc. I vividly remember begging my grandmother to buy that game for me, but she never did because I didn't know the name of the game. Everything on the demo disc was in English, and neither of us understood anything that was showing to us. However, sometime later, I happened to stumble upon the game in a gaming store. To my surprise, the disc that I bought contained not only Twisted Metal 3, but all 4 games of the series. At the time, that was incredible. I came back home as soon as I could and I boot up the game and finally experienced my first car combat adventure. I played those games for hours, days, weeks, months, and years. I played with my dad, friends, and all of my cousins. They were a significant part of my gaming journey, and I spent countless hours playing all 4 of those games. But Don't be mad at me, but Twisted Metal 3 was always my favorite despite all the backlash.
Your wish is granted. Too bad you can't change the channel.
Enough! Calypso, let me up! I can't...
As I grew older and got myself a PlayStation 2, my taste in games changed a lot. From more colorful games like Gex and Street Fighter to more mature ones like Hitman 2 and GTA San Andreas. However, I still loved playing games that reminds me of those golden PS1 days. Seeing old games from a past console getting their modern versions was always a blast. Seeing Crash on the PS2, for example, was fantastic. An already graceful aging game with modern graphics on modern hardware always got me curious about how those old franchises might resurface again in the current generation. With that said, I remember going to my aunt's house one day. I was visiting her and my cousin invited me to play some games with him. He had a PlayStation 2 ready to go and asked me to choose which game we should play. As I was searching through his vast gaming collection, it didn't take long for me to be shocked. There was a CD with a clown whose head was bursting into flames, set against a dark background with the title Twisted Metal Black. I was immediately euphoric but also scared because I was not used to horror games yet. However, Twisted Metal was never a horror game. It was supposed to be goofy, colorful, and fun, not like this. So even though I was scared and skeptical about what I was going to play, he and I inserted the disc into the tray, and the colorful, goofy world of Twisted Metal all of a sudden became truly twisted.
3 months in the nut house. It was the longest I'd ever been confined. So a few people had been killed. It wasn't my fault.
Please, no, I got a family.
Shut
please.
up and bleed, you motherfucker.
Black had a huge impact on my life. I played so much that I became obsessed with his lore. The game's lore was so intriguing to me that I started creating artwork inspired by it. Over the years, I dedicated myself to making comics and write stories about it. I even used Black as a foundation for my 3D portfolio, where I attempt to recreate all the vehicles while learning 3D modeling. This game was incredibly important to me and significantly inspired my artistic side. Twisted Metal Black is more than just Twisted Metal. It's a masterpiece in horror and storytelling. It feels like you're reading a book of horror tales, but in a more disturbing and realistic way. It plays with horror concept really well, especially if you are a fan of the old games. It's totally different. You are not sure what to expect or what you're going to see. It keeps you on alert, especially after you select your first character to play. Doing so, you get this monologue. Depending on which character you selected first, you are in for some disturbing material.
Must have been years I was left alone in that darkness. But when you look like I do, it's probably for the best.
The series began as a design idea that me and another designer, Mike Yam, had back in '93 or '94. And from there, I jumped on the project with a developer who at the time was called Single Track in Utah. And I was the lead designer and director of that title and the sequel, Twisted Metal 2. After Twisted Metal 2, another entirely different group began working on Twisted 3 and Twisted 4. And their take on the game was different than ours.
Most people felt that the third and fourth installments of Twisted Metal did not live up to its predecessors. From what we've seen so far, what's going to separate Twisted Metal Black from the rest of the pack is its storyline. Think Silence of the Lambs meets Seven. The characters are not only more developed, but decidedly more twisted than ever before.
And one thing that this game excels the most is atmosphere. The concept of atmosphere simply states as the mood, tone, and emotional environment created by the combination of various elements such as setting, music, lighting, visuals, storytelling, etc. It's the intangible feeling of ambience that envelops the audience and immerses them in the world of the game. A well-crafted atmosphere can greatly enhance the viewer or player's experience by invoking emotions, building tension, and creating a sense of place and time. With the concept now in mind, we can begin to piece together how they managed to make this game so disturbing, despite the big risk it was back in the day, which not only involved a significant shift in the concept of an already acclaimed franchise, but also embraced a brutal aesthetic never seen before, to the point of earning an M rating, a departure from the past Twisted Metal games that never came close to having it.
I was going back and forth between this kind of dark, violent, depressing world, which was inspired by things like Jacob's Ladder and Seven, and the art or the photography of a guy named Joel Peter Witkin, who actually would go to Mexico and purchase corpses from the morgue, and he would pose those in really weird fucking poses and really just disturbing, sometimes sexual imagery and stuff. And I was really vibing with that whole flavor.
As I boot up the game, you're already introduced to a more sad and uneasy vibe that, alongside a Rolling Stones instrumental song, we got one of the most amazing menus that I have ever seen. Here you have a terrific presentation. The new Sweet Tooth, who graced the cover, is also here, gazing directly at the player as an industrial-sounding song plays in the background. This music not only complements the car combat theme, but also enhances the twisted nature of the audio design, giving you the sensation of watching a slasher movie. The menu is a spectacle in itself. As you navigate through the options, the camera pans in different directions, revealing various perspectives of this chaotic battleground. I must appreciate this a lot because it's really rare to see menus like this these days. It's not like a game needs a menu like this to be good, but when developers have the time and resources to create one, it enhances the player's overall experience. In Twisted Metal Black, the menu has such a significant impact that it is enough to keep you fully immersed. After tweaking some settings, I was finally able to start my first campaign. For those who don't know how Twisted Metal works, let me briefly explain. Twisted Metal is an annual tournament hosted by Calypso. We are not entirely sure who he is, but for the sake of this video, we can assume he's some sort of entity. Each year, different and returning drivers compete for the ultimate prize, a wish. You can wish for whatever you want, but the catch is that Calypso always finds a way to twist your prize.
His body worn from 100 years of use, Captain Rogers struggled to stand before me. As his prize, he asked to be young again. He wanted a second chance at life. "Please, Calypso," he begged. "Give me the body of a 20-year-old." Congratulations, you now have the body of a 20-year-old. Maybe next year you will win Twisted Metal again and ask for the head of someone the same age. I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.
So now that we know what this is about, let's choose our driver, or better said, patient. This is where things start to change significantly. The setting of this game and what connects all these characters besides the contest is that they are all locked up in the Black Field Asylum, a place where only the most disturbed minds reside. Serial killers, mental patients, and a variety of other horrific personalities. Each character you select has an intro cutscene that always starts with them inside an asylum cell, where they vaguely explain their background or how they end up there. The cryptic nature of each character's intro is enough to pique your curiosity. Not that is a good thing, because in the end, these are really bad people, but connects you in a way that makes you curious enough to encourage you to see the outcome.
Calypso told me he had to make a few modifications, but what man doesn't need a little adjusting here and there? As he held me in his big, strong arms, he leaned in to whisper something in my ear. To this day, I still can't believe what he said.
I will never love you.
My God, I was so close. But this wasn't my true love at all. He wasn't anything like the man I thought he was. Certainly not good enough for a girl like me. My Prince Charming is out there. I know he is, and I'll find him. Even if I have to go through each and every man, one at a time.
Back in the day, one of the most enjoyable things I liked to do in the other titles was to read the bios of each and every driver in the character selection menu, even though I didn't know English yet. Those bios provided some lore and briefly explain aspects of character motives and their wishes. In Black, we have a file that contains information about their situations, ranging from fiercely aggressive to excitable explosive. These files detail their disorders and how each patient should be treated. There's no overarching story or anything this time. You simply pick one patient and discover what lies ahead. I can assure you that you'll be baffled or even disturbed by some of these stories.
I was gonna give him the satisfaction. Benny died 2 days later. I couldn't look at him. I didn't even want to think about it. It's amazing the things you'll do to survive. I think Benny would have understood.
I love that almost all the cutscenes were supposed to be fully animated, but due to the lack of time and resources, they went with some sort of a slideshow mixed with animations and cryptic imagery. The graying effect on top, coupled with the narration capturing the player's attention, makes it even scarier.
So basically the stories on Black were originally going to be fully animated, and I worked with a guy named Jeff Goldsmith to write the basic stories as scripts. And so it was me, Jeff Goldsmith, Martin Mercer up in the Sony conference room, sometimes pulling all-nighters. I remember Martin sleeping under the table and everything. I mean, it was brutal to get these storyboarded and written, and we were storyboarding them while we were writing them. And it turned out towards the end, we just didn't have the time or money to fully animate everything. And so when they had to get cut down into more of the kind of semi-moving slideshow that they are now, I reached out to Paul because, you know, he was good with sort of internal monologue because of the comics. There are still some shots in it where it's fully animated, and we tried to keep as much as that as we could, but end of the day, it was taking way too long. We just couldn't get it done in time.
What I truly appreciate is how these limitations sparkled the creative side of the developers. I believe that overcoming such limitations is where creativity thrives. It's fantastic. Another great example of this is the first Silent Hill game, where the fog was created because of the rendering limitations of the PlayStation 1. I'm glad those cutscenes were not fully animated. This style aligns much better with the tone of the game. After selecting a character and watching their introduction, players are greeted by a loading screen that contains an inner monologue from the respective character they selected. This provides players with additional information about the patient they chose. Some of these messages offer simple tips for the player, such as when they are about to face Minion, one of the bosses. However, most of these messages delve into the patient's backstory, their thoughts on the unfolding events, and as you progress and uncover more through cutscenes, they also express their emotions. They are not just battling in the contest, but also grappling mentally with their own minds, possessed by uncertainty or rage. It's truly frightening and terrifying to witness these individuals as they completely lose it.
They say the mind bends and twists in order to deal with the horrors of life. I think my mind bent so much it snapped in two.
Ft.Mel Black's gameplay remains remarkably solid even after 20 years. The cars have weight and handle exceptionally well. Each character possesses specific stats that determine its armor, handling, and power, referred to as specials. Specials are the signature moves of the characters, adding a unique aspect to their gameplay, beyond just lore and basic car stats. These attacks can range from simple homing missiles to turning an ice cream truck into a massive mech. The other general weapons feels terrific, each with its own unique attributes. You have easy and simple to use missiles that inflict significant damage, as well as weapons that demand a high level of precision, but in return deal an absurd amount of damage, rewarding player skill when effectively utilizing these weapons. This is really smart design. Another thing that I adore about these weapons is their sound. You can be running around the battlefield while you're being chased by someone, and the sound feedback is so crucial that you can hear what type of weapons is about to hit you. Sometimes it's a missile that you can dodge or maybe not, but knowing what's coming just by listening is something that I was incredibly impressed. The combat itself has a lot of depth, especially for a game from the early 2000s. When I talk about depth, I mean it. Doing my research for the script, I stumbled upon a video that is called the Ft.Mel Black Online Bible, which contains 30 minutes of in-depth combos and tricks that you can do within the game mechanics. Those are some really baffling stuff that I found that I had no clue that were possible. Even the game's director recognizes that.
There's a Twisted Metal fan website out there. They really came of age and fell in love with a lot of Twisted Metal because of Black. And they would send me videos of this really amazing gameplay where they were able to dodge certain missiles and dodge bullets and drive backwards to create dodging to homing weapons that we never thought were dodgeable. None of that was intentional. None of that was like we consciously sat there and designed that. It was just all the pieces worked together and they figured out how to play that instrument that we happened to build.
Despite all the depth, the game still have some flaws that hindered the experience. For example, how many of you who played this game back in the day learned how to execute the freeze attack or activate your shield? Personally, I never knew about those moves until I accidentally triggered them by pressing certain button sequences. When I played Twisted Metal Black, I was aware of those moves, but I didn't know how to execute them. So, with the power of the internet, I decided to look them up. It turns out you actually have to input a specific button sequence. But what's the problem? While playing the game, you have two options, using the D-pad to control your car or the left analog stick. Both can be used for movement, as I mentioned earlier. And for executing what I like to call power moves, this means you have to maneuver your car in the right direction and quickly press the button sequence to activate the intended skill. On paper, it sounds kinda okay, but in practice, you often miss the skills. The shield might activate too late because you didn't press the sequence fast enough, or the freeze may miss because you have your opponent move away while you are inputting the sequence. Of course, one might argue that these moves require skill, but pressing a button sequence to activate a shield isn't intuitive. It would have been helpful if the game provides some form of instruction beyond just including in the game's manual. Unfortunately, I have the digital version, so I don't have access to that menu, but I've heard it looks pretty dope. The fact is, these moves are somewhat essential for playing the game, as they can be a tremendous help, especially since this game is quite challenging. Twisted Metal Black difficulty can be incredibly overwhelming at first. After selecting a character, there's no tutorial, no tips or anything. The game simply throws you into a deathmatch against 7 other opponents. The worst part is that the AI primarily targets you. It's a rare occurrence for one AI to kill another. This only tends to happen in levels like the skyscraper or the snowy roads because of the possibility of falling off the map. Other than those exceptions, the game can be quite punishing for players who are unfamiliar with its mechanics. This could potentially be a quit moment for many people. I'm not suggesting that games must have a tutorial section explaining everything, but at least providing players with an introductory experience to ease them into the gameplay would be beneficial. Twisted Metal games have traditionally lacked an introductory level. The closest to introduction was in Twisted Metal 3. Despite its flaws, in the first level you face only 2 other enemies in a confined map, allowing you to explore and learn the mechanics without being instantly overwhelmed. My first playthrough was really rough. I died a lot and got demolished by my enemies, but the second one was much smoother. And as I was continuing beating the game and again, the playthroughs started to get faster and easier. even allowing me to achieve a deathless run at one point. If you endure through the first few levels, you might begin to enjoy the game even more, especially if you experiment with different characters. Each one is truly unique and offers distinct playstyles. For instance, if you choose Dark Side, you can abuse your high armor stats and ram everyone, dealing crazy amounts of damage. Alternatively, you can select Spectre and outrun your enemies with insane speed, dishing out damage quickly and effectively. Or my personal favorite, Mr. Grimm, the Glass Cannon. It has the lowest armor in the game, but can melt health bars like butter. A true Green Reaper. Each playthrough consists of 8 levels, but the specific levels can vary depending on the path that players chose. The first level, Zorko Bros, Scrap and Savage, is the same for every character. It's a reference to one of the designers at Incog Inc., the studio responsible for creating Twisted Metal Black, Randy Zorko. This junkyard level is a mid-sized arena with plenty of open space, ideal for firing power weapons that require a clear line of sight to the enemy. It's one of my favorite levels not only because of its fluid gameplay, but also because it serves as an introduction to this new version of Twisted Metal. The level features a gray, desaturated and moody atmosphere. What's more impressive for its time is the dynamic weather changes. You could be in the middle of a fight when the level suddenly becomes even darker and rain starts pouring down, adding to the challenge as you are blinded by darkness. Another remarkable aspect is the level of destruction in this game. You can nearly demolish numerous houses, windows and building walls, amplifying the chaotic nature of the contest.
As we started to look at some of the specs on the PlayStation 2, we began to realize that we could actually create a game that fulfilled all of the fantasies we had had back in '93 when we first came up with the idea of a Twisted Metal game. We've got clouds rushing overhead that creates this kind of eerie feel. We've got trash and dead leaves blowing through the streets, firefights on crowded freeways with moving traffic, real-time weather and night and day changing, actually being able to see your characters in their cars and in some instances have them sort of exit the car and do certain kinds of attacks.
We have a lot of memory, a lot of processing, so you'll see a lot more interactivity, a lot more destructibility. I think in one of our levels we're up to, I don't know, close to 1,000 different things you can destroy.
After completing the junkyard level, you have the option to choose between 2 other levels, Suburbs or Freeway. Here is where the game allows you to branch paths, making the other playthroughs a bit different. But not too much, because you only get this option a few times throughout the 8 levels, but still a nice change of pace. The levels by itself pack so much atmosphere. While you are fighting your way through the contest, you can barely grasp the amazing details that those levels can offer. Or maybe it's for the best, because if you take the time to go around and pay close attention to those very same details, you might get a little unease with some things.
All patients are to report to Nurses Station 5 to receive their medication.
As hitting as those sounds may be, they offer an explanation for why this world feels so sad and lifeless. The chaos in the streets seems more like a smokescreen concealing what's truly unfolding within these levels. Creepy and terrifying stories that can hit close to reality than we might think. This game doesn't shy away from delving into these unsettling details, which is why at times it can feel quite eerie to progress through certain levels. If you are here for the gameplay, you might never want to turn off the music, and that's a great idea considering the songs in this game are consistently fantastic. The industrial sounds align perfectly with the pace of the battles, adding to the game's frenetic energy. You can feel the rhythm of the music as you blast missiles and deliver final blows, enhancing the experience and ramping up the action, making this contest even more chaotic. There are quite few levels in this game, and each of them presents a unique challenge. Among these levels, the sixth ones are notably more difficult. In this stage, you must choose between snowy roads and a driving movie. Both maps are quite compact, and dealing with 8 enemies in such a confined spaces can be a real nightmare. If you attempt to spawn with an aggressive approach, you might be melted in seconds. My strategy in this case involves in constant movement while firing a few shots until I can gain the upper hand towards the end of the level. An interesting aspect is that if you opt for snowy roads, AI control opponents often drive up the level themselves. This level is surrounded by cliffs that can instantly result in your demise, so proceed with caution. And what about the driving level? Just don't forget that this level even exists. Trust me, it's a nightmare. This level is particularly challenging because you have no way to fully heal yourself. In most levels, you can restore your health using health pickups, although they don't refill your health bar that much. The most effective way of healing is the repair stations, where you can fully replenish your health. However, the driving map, being the smallest in the game, lacks these repair stations, leaving you with only the option of small health pickups, which are also quite scarce. As I mentioned earlier, this game can be quite challenging. While levels like the highway and junkyard are relatively easier due to ample maneuvering space, others like drive-in and snowy roads present a great challenge. However, you can still complete them quickly, especially because enemies can sometimes meet their demise without your direct intervention. But there are mandatory levels that can be overwhelmingly difficult at first. A prime example is the prison level. It's a fantastic level due to its sheer scale. You begin a confined square-shaped room with almost no weapons and 2 enemies relentlessly targeting you. The key is not to engage them immediately. Instead, drive in circles until the level starts to unfold. After a couple minutes, the wall in the room opens, revealing the outskirts of a moving ship. This transition is truly awesome. You gain more space to maneuver, collect weapons, and battle enemies. Eventually, you realize the ship is moving and arrives at an island. The ship's captain communicates over the speakers as the ship docks at the prison port. Now you're allowed to drive off the ship, exploring both the prison's interior and the surrounding roads. This level evolves from a simple confined room to a massive, intricate environment with numerous areas to explore. You can even destroy the security cabin to lower the bridge, adding depth to the gameplay. These details make the level incredibly impressive, but also very challenging. The fact that you have to endure the initial 2 parts of the level until the ship arrives at the prison, granting access to a repair station, contributes to its difficulty. If you die frequently, you will be sent back to the beginning, which can be quite frustrating at times. Twisted Metal wouldn't be Twisted Metal without its iconic boss battles, and this installment is no exception. In this game, we face two bosses with mechanics that differ significantly from those in previous titles. They aren't just larger vehicles to shoot until they are defeated, at least not initially. The first boss is Minion. Not this one. This one, a character known from being a demon from hell who typically drives a tank. However, in this game, he takes the wheel of a massive fuel truck equipped with a flamethrower on top. This design choice effectively conveys Minion's overwhelming power. At the beginning of the level, you notice that Minion is shielded, rendering him impervious to damage. To break through this formidable defense, you must strategically target 4 panels located on the front, back, and sides of his vehicle. What makes this boss battle engaging is the tactic element it introduces. You must skillfully navigate around Minion, taking precise shots to destroy each panel before you can unleash your full arsenal on him. Charging head-on and mindlessly firing will lead you to your swift death. Minion's design challenges players to utilize the game mechanics strategically, elevating the overall experience beyond mere button mashing. It's great design. The final boss in the game is the Warhawk, and personally, I didn't find this battle as enjoyable as others, but it becomes manageable once you grasp his attack pattern. The Warhawk is a formidable opponent. He's a helicopter equipped with a shield. To make matters worse, you also have to contend with other Minions vehicles during the fight. The good news is that these Minion vehicles lack shields and their health is quite low. To defeat the Warhawk, focus on eliminating the Minion vehicles first. When you destroy a Minion vehicle, you'll notice that the fuel tank of their trucks remains intact. You can then use this fuel tank as a makeshift explosive by positioning next to the Warhawk. This will inflict massive damage to its shield. Repeat the process 3 times and the Warhawk's shield will be sufficiently weakened, allowing you to unleash your arsenal until it's defeated. If you are having trouble during this phase, try staying beneath the Warhawk as you attack. He struggles to hit you when you are positioned beneath him, making the battle more manageable. Thank me later. After defeating the bosses, players are rewarded with cutscenes that provide insight into each character's motives. These introductory cutscenes briefly touch on their backgrounds, leaving players in the dark about how they end up locked up in the Blackfield Asylum. However, after defeating Minion, the game provides a more detailed explanation of what drove these characters to become who they are.
I was out like the dying heartbeat of a little girl. It was the first time in forever I hadn't felt the burning and the dreams. Boys and girls, those were some wonderful dreams. All my greatest achievements flashed before my eyes. The scale of what I'd done, the sheer volume of people I'd killed, it was breathtaking. But like all good things, it had to end sometime. When they captured me, the only thing I could think was, what a waste. All those people I hadn't killed yet. Come the night of my execution, there must have been over 1,000 people gathered outside to watch me fry. I was upset about that. There should have been more. I remember there was this preacher in the observation room. I figured he was just some Bible thumper wanting to save my soul. But as it turned out, the old man had something else in mind. As I fried, he started screaming out like the freak he was. He asked God to curse me, to burden me forever with the flames of hell. It took me less than a minute to kill 3 police officers and get my mask back on. I never used to believe in curses, but it's been 3 months since that night, and the pain gets worse every day. So let me tell you something, boys and girls. I sure as hell believe in curses now.
This is where the game takes a dark turn. Depending on the character you selected, their backstories can be quite intense. For instance, you might play as a cop with severe anger issues, whose unchecked rage leads to brutal acts, not only against the intended target, but also an innocent family.
As I drifted away, the torment began again. The same torment I'd endured 1,000 nights and days before. I began to remember. It happened a couple of years back. We were out across from the Northside Apartments. There'd been reports of terrorist activity in the building. When we got there, we found some kind of doomsday cult had set up shop inside. We were sent there to take them out. These guys were real psychos, desperate as hell, holed up like rats in a cage. But now their little hideaway was a kill zone, and I had them right in my sights. I'd dealt with a lot of dirtbags before, but for some reason, this was different.
All units open fire! Open fire! Shoot to kill!
All these years trying to make a difference, and for what? So that we could arrest these scum suckers and watch them walk free the same afternoon? My rage got the better of me. I couldn't focus. I wanted to send these killers to hell where they belonged. I got them. But not before I made the biggest mistake of my life. I'd let my emotions cloud my judgment. It cost me, but it cost someone else even more. Oh my God, what had I done? Those people were dead, and it was all my fault. There was only one way out. But that way was closed. I was going to have to live with it for the rest of my life, and nothing I could do would ever take away the pain. Until now.
Or perhaps you choose to embody a preacher who mistakenly exorcises a baby during what was meant to be a baptism ceremony, and the outcome was a bit too much. These character stories can be deeply disturbing, leaving players with an eerie feeling long after they finish playing it.
Did Calypso really have the power to give me a second chance? He asked if I really wanted a second chance, if I understood the risks. But I wasn't going to screw up twice. This time, it was all going to work out. I demanded my prize. And just like that, I was back. I knew what to do this time. I had to contain my anger. I had to focus. That little girl was going to be safe. It was my sworn duty, both to her and to myself.
He's drawing a weapon! All units open fire! Open fire! Shoot to kill!
I made sure every single bullet found the right target this time. That dirtbag went down like a puppet with his strings cut.
Terrorist is down! Terrorist is down! Great shooting, Agent. Second team, move it!
But it wasn't over. Not until I knew those people were safe. They were shaken but alive. Calypso had done it. I never thought it could be like...
All units, target is not down. Target is still hot.
I was so close to making it right.
Agent! Agent Stone, report in! Are you hit?
Those stories can be incredibly rough to watch at times, but believe it or not, they were even more intense in the game's earlier versions. Ft.Mel has faced censorship a few times, resulting in changes to certain cutscenes in the final release. While I won't provide a full breakdown here due to potential content restrictions, I've included a link into the video description that directs you to the alternative cutscenes if you are curious. In these outer cutscenes, I discovered some truly perplexing details. Take for example the preacher storyline which I just mentioned earlier. After defeating Minion, we finally uncovered the truth. The preacher was hired to exorcise a baby, but during the ritual, the demon possessing the baby transferred its malevolence influence to the preacher. As a result, he went on a relentless rampage, murdering the entire family that was present. The police eventually arrived and the demon departed, leaving the preacher to face the consequences of his horrifying actions.
Every waking hour since, I've feared the demon. But now I have a second chance. When I win this contest, I know the Lord will welcome me back with open arms.
However, when you defeat Warhawk, the shocking truth comes to light. The preacher had concealed a horrifying secret. He was never possessed by a demon during the exorcism. In reality, it was a baptism, and he mercilessly killed everyone present due to his own insanity. It's only after this realization that he strives to find punishment.
And the truth, he said, was that the demon wasn't real. The voice inside me was a figment of my imagination. My God, it was all in my mind. The exorcism? It wasn't an exorcism at all. It was simply a baptism. It was Judgment Day in that church, and I was the angel of death. The truth had been delivered indeed, but not by God, but by Calypso. He was right. I was, as they say, insane. My whole life I'd been trying to silence that voice. I even performed rituals to show my loyalty to God in hopes that He would save me. But nothing worked. A man cannot hide from himself. There is only one path before me.
Pretty heavy stuff, right? This was the final version cutscene. The censored one was even more disturbing. It actually depicted the preacher committing an unspeakable act against the child using the baptism font, complete with fully fleshed out animation. Of course, I'm censoring the details here for obvious reasons. Here's another example. No Face. A boxer who suffered a brutal defeat in a fight, resulting in the need for facial surgery. Little did he know that the surgeon who operated on him had a vendetta, having lost a substantial bet on him.
My nose was broke. I was a mess. And some of the guys from the gym said they knew this surgeon who could fix me up, good as new. Maybe there were better doctors in town, but none that I could afford. Besides, I'd heard this guy was a big fan of the fights. Too bad old Doc made the mistake of betting on me that night.
$20,000, McCutcheon. $20,000 I lost on you tonight.
As I went under, all I could hear was the scraping sound of the Doc's blade and this blaring opera music he played while he worked.
In an act of revenge, the surgeon not only disfigured No Face but also removed his eyes, ears, nose, and sewed his mouth shut. No Face's story is already quite tragic, but in the censored version, they originally included graphic details of the surgery, sparing no expense in depicting body horror. However, these scenes were eventually removed due to their excessive and disturbing nature, for reasons that are quite obvious. There are several more cutscenes that were altered, and if you are curious to see them, I've included the links in the description for you to watch. However, please be aware that the content is highly sensitive. Well, if the cutscenes are enough to censor this game, it doesn't seem to be that censored. The game still shipped it and sold it super well, ranking it as the 61st highest selling game launched for the PlayStation 2. What happened? There is a European version of Black that demanded to be censored so it could ship to Europe. And they didn't just censor a few bits of the cutscenes, they removed all of them.
This kind of stuff couldn't be done with just a minute-long ending. Sadly, these tales of desperate contestants would be completely removed from the European version of the game, for one simple reason.
Just violent.
Please, no, I got a family.
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker.
My understanding, and I may be explaining this poorly, is that unlike America, where, you know, you can put whatever you want into the marketplace and there are ratings. I mean, we're not even legally obligated to put ratings on the games if we don't want to. Sony could release a XXX level violent sex game on PlayStation. They'd get a lot of PR shit for it. But the ESRB is not a legal body, right? So it really is more of good PR and making sure that parents know what their kids are playing in America. My understanding is in England, there is actually a government body that decides if things are at the sort of level of violence or gratuity or sexuality to even be allowed on the shelves of the UK. And so I know with God of War, it was just like, look, there are some things you cannot do that you're doing in the American version. With Black, I don't even think we had that conversation. I think it was just, we shipped the game and one day my boss is like, oh, they have to take the movies out. I really wasn't privy to that. I don't know if it was that there wasn't enough time to come back to me and say, Jaffe, here are the 12 things the UK government has a problem with. Can you re-edit these? Or if the title had never done that well in the UK anyway. So they're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're not going to spend another, you know, $300,000 doing an edit just for Europe. Nobody gives a shit about this game in Europe anyway. Just fucking cut the movies and let's get on with our fucking lives. I have no idea what the motivation was. It could have been either of those, but I wasn't privy to that. If they came to me at the time and said, hey, Jaffe, we're going to have, you know, here's some offensive cuts and we're going to give you 3 weeks to fix this so the European audience can have more satisfying Twisted Metal endings, of course, we would have done it in a heartbeat, but it was never presented to us as an option.
So yeah, unlucky I guess. If you are from Europe and play the censored version, let me know in the comments about your reaction after discovering that this game had some horrifying content. You beat the game with all the contestants. You saw all those disturbing stories, but you still haven't unlocked those characters. How do I unlock them? Well, here's one of my favorite parts of this game. In some levels, you have secret areas that you can find to unlock a new character. Those characters are really well hidden. Some of them you need to jump onto a roof, so you can access a secret garage. Others are even more extreme, involving actions like crashing a plane full of passengers to unlock certain characters. And with this, you finally unlock all the characters. Now you have more disturbing stories to watch, and also other vehicles to play. Personally, I found the unlockable vehicles to be really fun and strong to use, so it's a really nice touch. I love secret areas in games, especially when the reward is so amazing, like an entire new character. Another fun fact is that they were actually planning for Warhawk to be unlockable, but of course, it was not an easy task.
When people talk to me about Warhawk being playable in Twisted Metal Black, it's something I take on faith because I don't remember that. It doesn't surprise me that that was planned. I almost kind of maybe remember writing some dialogue for the character's loading screen even, but it definitely was lack of time. Anything that got cut was lack of time and or the fact that when you're dealing with flight, you know, it's a new dimension you're introducing to a game that historically has been grounded. And it probably was one of those things that were like, yeah, let's put a fucking helicopter in as one of the secret characters. We already have the model, we have the effects, this will be great. And then we were running out of time probably, and the coders looked at it and said, you're going to have a shit ton of problems with this because we haven't built these levels to keep helicopters from going out of the levels, and we're going to have to probably spend an extra 3 months just to figure out how to solve this. Are you sure you want to do it? And it was like, so that's probably why we didn't include it. It wasn't something that we had Warhawk flying around and playable, and at the last minute we cut it because, you know, there was some awful helicopter crash in the news, and it was nothing dramatic like that. It was just a big idea, like a lot of big ideas in games, that you kind of take baby steps and then you realize you're out of time and something's got to go, and that was probably one of the things that went.
And there's still a final prize for those who endure the whole game, dedicating their time to unlock each and every character ending. A reward that was really freaking cool. Minion, yes. You can now drive the relentless fuel truck, obliterating all the enemies in your path, cleansing them from this world. Minion is just overpowered, as he should be, destroying everyone in seconds while they can barely make a scratch on you. It's a really fun unlock and a rewarding experience after enduring this game for so long. It's not a bad game, it just becomes a bit repetitive at some point. Minion doesn't have any cutscenes, but the best part is that instead of an inner monologue on the loading screens, it displays random lines of numbers, like Morse code. Well, we have more secrets to uncover, and that's exactly what I did. After some research, I finally got all the message here, and now we can see what secrets this character is hidden. So, let's see it. I do not think this is real. Okay, what it is? Right. I must speak in code or he will discover me. He? We are trapped in his hand. Wait, what? Who is he talking about? This is how he sees the world. How Sweet Tooth sees his life? It is not real. Sweet Tooth? Wait, in his head? What does that even mean? All of us are trapped in his head. Wait, am I trapped in his... I'm starting to remember now. I miss the old colorful world. We will return to our world one day. Wait, in the real world, my name is Marcus Kane. I remember now. My name is Marcus Kane, and I came here to rescue my family, my wife. Where are they?
What family? I think you are really late to the party, Mr. Kane. There is no family anymore, and you are not in a position to demand things. You've been a naughty boy, Mr. Kane. Oh, you've been. Now, boys and girls, here's what happens when you don't obey your parents.
Needles? This is not possible. Please, just give me one more chance. I promised you.
Yes, Bag. Scream. You are just making this even more delightful.
Why me? Why are you doing this to me? I just wanted to go home.
Shut up and bleed, you motherfucker.
I must say that I love family reunions, especially when they end up in a twisted way. I am Calypso, and I thank you for watching this video about Twisted Metal.
Hello guys, Jules here. I was not going to do an outro. If you guys know, I usually don't do outros like here, like showing myself. But this one is special. I just want to thank Mel for being such a awesome person. I was thinking about reaching him as soon as I was writing the script for this video. But at the same time, I was like, okay, that might never happen. I'm a small channel, and the chances for this to happen are really, scarce. But when he answered me back, I was like, oh my god, I'm freaking out. I just freak out. Anyway, thank you so much, Mel, for this. It was super special. I'm a big Calypso fan. I'm a big Twisted Metal fan, but Calypso was one character that inspired me a lot, especially to pursuing some voice acting. I know I'm not a voice actor or anything, but it's something that I really enjoy to do sometimes in my free time as a hobby. But yeah. Thank you so much, Mel. You are freaking awesome, dude. You're freaking awesome. In the bottom of my heart, I mean it. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching the whole thing. And if you like, please just hit the like button somewhere down here. I don't know how to do this. But remember, if you want to comment and expand the discussion even further, do it always with respect. Again, thank you so much for being here. Stay awesome, stay safe, and yeah guys, see you guys on the next video. Bye!